know your project is going really well, when a stakeholder comes up to you and says, "We're very pleased with how this project is going," the only thing is, we've changed our minds. This is a job for project change control. Shift happens. Things change. So, no matter how much you want to nail down the scope and the objective and the design and the specification and the functionality of your project from day one, you can't. All you can expect is to get a good articulation that will need to change as you work through the project. Because if your project is to stay relevant, it needs to respond to changes in requirements, to changes in the marketplace, to changes in technology, to changes in society. But the problem with changes is that they can create project chaos. And as one stakeholder after another requests this change and that change and this change and that change, it can be really hard to keep up. And for you, as a project manager, it can be tempting to say either, "Yeah, of course, no problem, we'll sort it," or "No, we can't. The scope is fixed." Or maybe you'll just pretend not to hear. A blanket yes, a blanket no, or ignoring your stakeholders is not sustainable. But you can't have that chaos. What you need is to exert control. What you need is transparency and good governance. You need a process, a change control process, which puts all of these requests for change under your control. And let's face it, if you have a contract, let's not even think about the consequences of not having control over the changes. And while I think of it, when you have a contract, then what I'm going to be calling a change request later in this video, you will more often call a variation order, or a contract variation order, CVO. So let's get going. What is change control? Project change control is a process. It starts with a request for change, a stakeholder asking for a change to the scope, to the functionality, to the specification, to the detail of what you are doing or producing on your project. Your change control process will capture that request formally, assess it rapidly to understand it, and then carry out a full and detailed evaluation. It will review the options and make a decision, implement the changes required, and then track the implementation of those changes and learn from the process. To learn more about how that process works, I have a dedicated video and I'll put a link to it in the description, rather than burden this video with too much information. In my free glossary, Be on the Inside, Decode the Jargon of Project Management, I define change control as the process of managing requests for change to make sure decisions are made accountably. The requests are documented on a change request form, and all requests are logged and tracked on a change log. It ensures that where changes are authorized, appropriate additional resources are allocated. In that definition, I named two artifacts of change control. The two artifacts of project change control. These are your change request document and your change log. So let's look at them one at a time. And by the way, I have templates for both of them in our project templates kit. And yes, you guessed it, there'll be a link in the description. Change request document. The whole process starts when someone suggests or requests a change to functionality, specification, capabilities, or some other aspect of your project. This is known as a change request or as a request for change, or RFC. Your response to this is neither yes nor no. It's thank you. Then You will ask them to document what their request is. Firstly, the details of the change they're requesting, and secondly, why they are making this request. What are the benefits of those changes or the compelling drivers that mean we need to make those changes? They'll do this on a project change request document, which may be a simple paper template or it may be part of an online project management system. And you'll find an example template in our project templates kit. Typically, it will have 3 parts. Part 1 is the proposal. What precisely is the change requested and what are the reasons why it's being requested, the benefits or the drivers. Part 2 is the review. This is where the project management team will assess the implications of the change being requested. How much work will it take? What resources will it require? How much will it cost? What delay will it incur in the existing project? What additional risks will it create? And what will be the impact on other activities either within or outside of your project? All of this is designed to give the information that the decision makers need to make a robust decision. So the third part of your change request template will be for the decision. This is where the decision maker, which may be an individual or a board or a committee or a steering group of some form, will document their decision, which is going to be to either accept or reject the request for change. And typically, I would expect somewhere, for the sake of the audit trail, the decision maker to sign off on that decision. Once the change request form goes in, the process has started. And I'll remind you that we have a video on that you can watch if you need to. But to keep track of all of this, the second artifact that we need is our change log. The change log. This is a document of record and a management tool. It's a key part of governance, but it also helps you manage the process. And it keeps a record that justifies every increase in expenditure, every deployment of additional resources, every additional delay to the schedule. You may be using a sophisticated project management system with the change control process built in, but if you're not, the ideal simple tool to use for this is a spreadsheet. And yes, we have a change log spreadsheet as part of our project management templates kit. To end the video, I'd like to address some wrinkles specifically around change control in big, small, and agile projects. So, what if you do have a small project? Good judgment is the key to all project management. The bigger, the more complex, the riskier, the higher profile your project is, then the more robust your processes need to be. However, if your project is small and simple and low profile and low risk, then you can keep your change control process really simple and possibly even contemplate doing away with it altogether. Let's face it, in some projects, you can pretty much plan out everything and expect very little change along the way. It's a short project and people understand it. In short, never let your urge to follow some standard process override the value of doing something sensible. So what if it is a big, complex project with lots of change? I have managed a large project with a lot of change that had a full-time staff managing the change control process, 3 senior experts and an administrative team to support them. And the decision process was made by a dedicated decision-making group that met 3 times a week. This was a highly structured process that was an important part not just of the governance of the project, but frankly of delivering something of real value. If you need to do something similar and you want some terminology, you could consider having a change control team and a design authority group, a group of senior experts who can review each change request and make an informed decision. But what if we're using agile project management? Because let's face it, agile project management is designed to get away from the need to have change control, because we do everything in short iterations or sprints. We draw down just the few elements of our product backlog to work on that we know are most needed in the next time box period. So, in principle, agile projects don't need to deal with change control. We never lock down the scope, and we identify what scope we need and what functionality we need at each start to a new iteration. However, Principle 2 of the 12 Agile Principles states that the Agile Manifesto welcomes changing requirements, even late in the development. Agile processes should harness change for the customer's competitive advantage. Different Agile frameworks each have their own approach, and it is beyond the scope of this simple introduction to look at each of those. If you are doing Agile project management, then understand the interaction between product backlog and the need for change control. However, if you're managing your project either as a predictive project or as a hybrid project, then you will need to think in advance about the right change control process for your project. Please do give this video a like if you've enjoyed it or learned from it. I'll be making loads more great project management videos for you, so please do subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of them. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one.